Dave,
Hey,
I want to take you to a podcast.
want to
Nice
take
to
you
see
to
you.
a podcast. Yay. Good to see you too,
Welcome.
dude.
Long time no see. How's it going?
Yeah, really well. It's spring
That's
here
to
in
hear.
New Zealand. The sun is shining, the birds are singing, and it feels like my world around me is coming back to life. So it's
Oh,
quite
that's so
lovely.
awesome. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have unpacked the do not get depressed lamp, which is standing next to me, which is why I'm very bright right now.
Yes,
But
because you're at the
it's
other
amazing
end of
and
the
making me not sad.
hemispheres. Yes.
And also, apparently, my new hometown has entered storm surge season, which is not something that I knew was a thing. But apparently, that is just a thing where if there's the tide is coming in while like a strong wind is also blowing the water in, like just parts of the city near the harbor just like get slightly submerged, and everyone is like, that's just how it is. But then also the other day there was like citywide alarms, like sirens sounding in the night. And I was like, is this it? Is this how it ends? But then it's apparently like a false citywide alarm that was only supposed to trigger in like some coastal region or something.
Was that another thing that locals were kind of like, or was everybody a bit like, what the heck?
Well, the alarm was a bit like everyone was a bit, I think.
We have a fire service here. The way it works in a lot of places in New Zealand is your fire station, fire team are largely a volunteer service. And what happens is we, in our place, we've got, it sounds like a World War II style sort of siren, right? It's like one of those proper like ooh things. And that's the call out. Like they don't page them, SMS them or whatever, yeah. And so, when we first moved here from the UK, that scared the absolute bejesus out of me the first time. Like, what on earth,
rural parts of Bavaria, at least, they have that exact same system, basically. You have the volunteer firefighters, and then you have the...
Yeah.
And that is exactly the kind of siren that was like...
Yes. No, that's... it's not everywhere that has it, but where we moved to a couple of years back, we also have it here. So I don't know. I'm kind of used to it. And obviously, I kind of think, I hope everything's okay and they're going to help people. But no, anyway, that's a little side of being here.
So, yes. So, like, I'm just like happy for every tiny bit of sun right now. Because I got pretty wet today.
You need
it's also very different because people say that, oh, it's way more rain in this part of the country, but it turns out that when it rains in my old hometown, it really rains. Like when it rains, it pours. It really, there's like actual droplets of water falling from the sky. Whereas here, there's when it rains, it's just like it just has this weird mist hanging in the air all the time. So you don't get.
Is it because you're nearer to the sea?
I don't know, some climate thing, I guess.
Yeah.
The wind, the climate. I'm not a meteorologist.
No, me either. But I do know what you mean, though. We get it here in bit, and again, I think it must be due to being nearer to the sea. Yeah, but same sort of deal. Although yesterday, at least, something absolutely huge blew in, and we had hail, big rain, and then sun, because that's what it does. Yeah.
Nice.
4 seasons in one day is the phrase that gets uttered a lot. And we definitely see that.
Yeah, I can imagine. That must be fun though. Like to see, like, the spring is coming through, but it's like a hard fought battle.
Yes, it's one of those things as well. I needed to go out and outside into my garden and sort some things, and I was looking. So, oh, great, okay, it's unleashed. I'm not going out there right now. And I thought, maybe I'll have a cup of tea and we'll see if it like moves off, because that's typical. And yeah, sure enough, half hour later, it was like sunlight singing again, right, cool, that's worked out. But yeah, that's why everybody in New Zealand tends to wear hoodies and layers, because like you can go from that to then being too warm in the space of like an hour.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. That is something that I have to do this week, which is, oh my God, we're turning into old men. But anyway, like this is something I need to do this week, which is like resorting my biking apparel to have like the
Mm-hmm.
layered stuff and the waterproof stuff and everything because it's not summer anymore suddenly, which is kind of sad. But oh well.
Anyways, this is not the hemispherical comparison of weather podcast. So this is waiting for
No,
review.
this is waiting for review. I basically just returned from London town, which
London,
was really fun. Like,
excellent.
I can just let me just tell you about it. Like I applied or I submitted a talk to the server-side Swift conference. I told you this last week, and they accepted, and I held my talk about the basically the history of telemetry deck and especially like how like what is it that I learned in having a Swift on the server service running for 5-ish years.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it went fantastic. Like I was
Brilliant.
incredibly, I had so much, like how like impersonator syndrome. No,
Anxiety? Oh, okay. Yeah.
well, how do you call
Imposter
it?
syndrome.
Imposter syndrome, not impersonator syndrome. That's the one.
Mm-hmm.
Because I felt like I'm going up there and like telling all these experts, like the people who write the Vapor framework itself, the people who invented the Hummingbird framework itself, like the people who work on like Swift itself, there was a huge bunch of Apple people there, and just telling them, so if you write a function, then sometimes you have to write the word async next to it, and then it works. Like that's how I felt, you know. Like everyone in the
Yeah.
audience would just be like, duh, who invited this dummy?
Yeah. Yeah. We know.
But instead, like so many people were like really happy with the talk. Apparently, I hit a good balance between things that beginners should know and things that I learned later on. I've also been told that it was very entertaining and that it was very ADHD friendly, which is fantastic to hear.
Oh,
Yeah, there's going to be a recording apparently soon. Like the first recordings have already started trickling out. So maybe I'll
that's
get
fantastic.
mine uploaded to YouTube soon-ish. So as soon as I get it, I'll put it into the show notes for either this episode or the next, depending on if this is already
Yep.
out by the
Yep.
time it gets recorded.
That's great. I look
Yes.
forward to seeing that because I was going to
Yeah.
ask you. You knew I was going to ask you, is there a recording? Because I always ask you
Yes.
that about these
Exactly.
things.
So I was immediately, and you asked, if you always do this because this is a recurring podcast. Our listeners don't know this yet, but I'm about to introduce this podcast. Like you don't know, like what podcast has my podcasting software like started to play right now? Like I'm a tiny bit insecure. Like what is it? Which podcast is that? It is waiting to, it is waiting
Easy for
for
you to
review.
say.
It is waiting for review, a show about the majestic indie developer lifestyle. Join your scintillating hosts to hear about a tiny slice of their thrilling lives. I'm Daniel, a tiny fox who lives in a burrow under a tree. And I'm here with Dave, who is a finalist for the Uncle of the Year award. Join
Hey,
us while waiting for review.
that's right. I've become an
Almost
uncle.
forgot the intro there.
No, that's all good. We're introed. I feel at ease. You know how I get if we don't intro. But no, I became an uncle and found this out about an hour before we started recording. So shout out to my brother James back in the UK and his wife Amy, who have just welcomed their son Ethan into the world. But yeah, that's quite cool. I'm quite settled and happy here in New Zealand and don't really think about going back to the UK much. But this has definitely been a morning where I've been like, yeah, it'd be nice if I could just teleport and see them all. I'm sure
Yeah, I
something
get
will
that.
happen at some point, but no. But anyway, back to the
Congratulations.
show. Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations. Yes. So this conference was exactly what I needed. Not only that I presented, which is what was really nice, but also like the very way how I discovered that this conference exists was because I posted on Mastodon, I think. I wish there was a conference sort of like the old Django cons, but for Swift on the server, because there's only like conferences for iOS developers these days. And I'm a server developer who writes Swift. I wish there was people who I could be friends with Then a friend of the show, Michaela Karen, writes and tells me like, "Why don't you go to server side Swift?" And I'm like, "What is that?" Google, 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 and yeah, I really wanted to go there. It was amazing, around 150 people, which is a perfect size for this sort of conference, and it
Yeah.
was located in the Royal Science Museum or National Science Museum, I want to say, in Kensington, London. And so it was like a really impressive building. We had the whole aviation wings. And that includes a huge IMAX theater where the talks were being held. So there's like photos of myself with next to a screen that is about like 10 times my height, which
Hmm.
looks really impressive. Or I look very tiny. That could also be the case. And then also like all the time in between the talks, which was a lot actually, because it was good for mingling and exchanging ideas and
Hmm.
stuff, was like underneath all these all old-ish and newish airplanes, which was really cool.
Well, that's
And
great.
yeah, and I met so many people in real life that I really wanted to meet in real life at some point. For example, I finally met Michaela Karen in person. Actually, she was there at the conference. I met Matt Massicotti, whom I like, which was like every time I talk to him online, it's like so fruitful and fantastic. And finally, it was
Yeah,
really
he's
nice meeting
awesome.
him in person. I also met like friend of the show Joe H, who wrote in a few times
Oh,
already actually. So yes, he
yes.
says hi. So if you're listening to this, Joe,
Awesome.
hi back. And I met at least two other listeners of this very show.
Wow. Wow.
So
That's
that's fantastic.
really cool. And obviously, shout out to anybody who's listening who was at the conference with Daniel. That's really cool. I'm a little bit jealous. Twice in one
It
day,
was
I'm
really fun.
like, oh, could get back to the UK. No, I'm not doing server side Swift, so that probably wouldn't be as deeply meaningful for me as it was for you.
Yeah, yeah, I guess like, that is the thing. Like I learned a lot too. Like not only about individual technologies that are available that I didn't know about. Like for example, just very recently, Swift directly and also like all the server-based Swift-based frameworks started to support open telemetry, which is a way of like tracing calls and like debug, like layered structured debug information. And so that is something that I'm really interested in and explore more. Like
Yeah,
but also just about like where is the community? Like for example, there was like when I was starting like writing Vapor like 5-ish years ago, like there used to be this Discord channel, and I went there, and I don't know, some like I think not a lot was going on there back then, and I kind of bounced off a little bit, and so I just never went there again. And now I'm like, okay, fine. I guess I will open Discord again every now and then. But I like because I'm opening Discord more often again anyway. I'm also more often in our own Discord again.
that's cool. I bounce in and out of Discord, and I know we shout it out on the show, and it's always lovely to see people arrive in the one that we have linked for indie devs. But I must say, Discord's interface doesn't always agree with me, and I sort of end up a bit like, if I've not got a conversation, I'm not going back.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, and there's just too many things as well. So by the time you've got Slack, Discord, and all the other social media apps and stuff as well, it's a lot to check. But I think when you've got a conference going on or anything that brings people together, though, those spaces are really useful for then, obviously catching people after the fact, and even I guess like arranging for meals and things like that when you're in town as well. I don't know if that was an aspect of this conference, but
Yeah, well, like we were basically fed and kept happy and pampered and everything.
beautiful.
Yeah. Fantastic conference. I feel so energized from the whole thing, just like because it was just nice. Like that is something that I missed and I didn't know I missed. And of course, I try to be as safe as possible, COVID wise. Of course, there's still some risk, but for me at least, it was worth it.
That's it.
Yeah,
I mean,
I missed this. It was
yeah,
nice.
I can appreciate that. And yeah, I feel somewhat the same these days, to be honest. It's like, yeah, there's not no risk, but you can kind of thread the needle on it. It's That's always good to do these things. Nah, awesome, mate. That sounds like a really good trip. I wish there was. I wish there was one for me. It would end up having to be so hyper specific, though. There'd be like me and maybe one other person there.
Well, then you can just like create that conference, and then everybody has to come to Wellington, so you don't have travel expenses or anything. It's perfect.
I mean, maybe I don't know. I'd have to find an excuse to get you here as well. So maybe I need to think about what
Yeah, it
this
needs to be
conference
something
would
where
be.
I can expense it at the company's with the company credit card.
Calling it now, DaveConf 2027. I think I'm
Oh,
going to need a
wait, you
better
never heard
name
of
for it.
DevCon? DevCon.
Yeah.
Like they have DevCon in Nevada,
Oh,
and they have
I could
DaveCon.
version it. They'd be like DEFCON 1, DaveCon 2, DaveCon 3.
Oh my God, we're at DevCon 4.
No.
Yeah,
Oh, we'll see. We'll see. I don't think I've got it in me to run a conference, if I'm honest. It's a lot of work.
it is. It is a lot of work, yeah. But still, like this one was fun. I enjoyed it a lot. Even my laptop survived, which I wasn't sure because it's kind of like I don't know. Like I used to have like basically every Mac laptop that I owned. I owned it for at least 6 years, and this one is at 5, so it should be fine. And I've been treating it reasonably gently. Like I've been using it a lot, of course, and I've been traveling a lot with it. But like it is falling apart a little bit. So
Well,
like
new
it's been
laptop ahoy, maybe sometime
yeah.
soon.
It's been like every time I close it, I want to be like, "Good girl, you've been very brave." But yeah, like apparently, like end of year or start next year, the M5 Pros will be released. Maybe I've just looked it
Yeah.
up earlier, so like maybe I'll keep an eye open. Let's see.
Yeah. I can't look at any new technology because I have got my iPhone
Ooh,
and my
what
iPhone
a
17 Pro.
what a huge stochastic island! No, not a stochastic island. It is the
What's
iconic
it called?
plateau.
That's right.
Such an
Yes.
iconic plateau. Listeners, he's just holding his huge iconic plateau into the camera.
Dang. But yeah, no, I love it, to be honest with you. I ended up with the silver model, largely because New Zealand's stock was all over the place. Literally, I had it ordered click and collect from the store that's most local to me, and they somehow stuffed everything up. And in the end, I was like, where is it? It's supposed to be here today. I even went down. They hadn't got a clue what had gone on and just told me to wait for the text message. And I'm like, right, okay, but you don't know when it's going to be in. Long story short, that was a Friday. The next day was Saturday. I was getting so annoyed, like, hey, my new phone should be here. Come on.
Yeah.
I ended up ringing up their sales support. Thankfully, there was a nice person who was on a Saturday willing to speak to slightly aggravated customers like me. And what he did was he split the order because the case wasn't in stock in the other store that's in the city here. So I've got two stores in reasonable driving distance. But he split the order, and I was able to go in and pick up the iPhone from in the city, and then on my way back pick up the case, and everything was good. Yeah,
Fantastic. So this is
and
a iPhone 17 Pro, but not Max, I assume.
that's right. Yeah, because I can't deal with having a phone that big. I like the size of the smaller Pro. I would appreciate the screen size of the Max, but yeah, I've almost got a fear, Daniel. If I had one and loved it, then I'm kind of tied to always getting the Max. And
Yeah, that's what happened to me.
yeah, and I've already had that journey from the regular phone to the Pro, so I can't do it to myself again with the Max. But no, this one is suiting me well. The camera's insane. I think I sent you some videos of the.
You did, and you zoomed in a lot.
Yeah, I went up to the lookout that looks out of here over Wellington Harbour and across the Hutt Valley, and
Which I recognized actually. What that was really scary because,
mm,
like, remember when I had my flight simulator phase when you almost lost me to the flight simulator, same as your
yes,
previous co-host.
yes, I was worried.
I used to like regularly basically fly around that Wellington Harbor because the airport is also just around the corner. So I was like, wait, this looks familiar somehow. Like because I know just ish whereabouts your house is, and was like, oh yeah, this should be
Yeah,
maybe this
yeah.
towards the city. So yeah, that was
Well,
eerie, but also fun.
one day you're going to have that eerie familiarity in person. Like I said, Davecon 2027. If I keep joking about it, I'm going to have to end up organizing a conference. I can't,
Yeah, with that name.
shouldn't do this. No,
And it needs to be like a combination of nerd stuff and like electronic music and
yeah,
visualizations, of course.
it will have to be. I think that name's a working title, but yeah, we'll see. But no, speaking of new iPhones and the end of things, though, we're now what, a few weeks into having had iOS 26, macOS 26 outside of beta. How are you finding it? How's that been going for you?
Ooh, harsh, to be honest. Like,
Oh,
um, like basically, I have two areas in which I try to evaluate this. Like, how is the new user interface, and how
hmm,
like does it actually just work? And on both of these fronts, I'm kind of disappointed. Like the new user interface, at the beginning, of course, it was kind of cool. Like, oh yeah, everything is cool, and like, look at this button, and whenever I move something underneath it, you get this incredibly cool effect. Like, I want to listen to like a 10-hour series on how exactly they implemented the shaders for that in a performant manner. Like, this is so cool. That being said, though, like so many things are suddenly needlessly stored into a submenu, like Apple
yes.
Music, Apple Health. Like, oh yeah, I want to switch between the two things that I use all the time. And suddenly it's like 3 tabs more because the tab bar is kind of hidden behind a like another button. And I'm this like this is getting on my nerves. And also the liquid glass UI as it is right now, like as many people predicted, it is actually not very glanceable. Like,
Hmm.
it is harder to read the screen. And of course,
Yes.
I am like I don't have the best eyesight, but still, like, it doesn't feel clean and cool and nice and well designed. It feels kind of chaotic. And of
Yeah.
course, with many of these new design systems, we had that with iOS 7 as well. With when everything became very flat, usually Apple will back off and also like find its way after a few releases. But right now, I am happier with this than I was with the flat design of iOS 7. It feels not very cool. And the other thing is just like all my devices are incredibly laggy these days. Like, I thought this was a beta thing or something, but my iPhone, which is last year's model, 16 Pro Max, so it's not an old phone, is like is barely able to get through a day on a battery charge suddenly. And also, like, everything lags. Like,
Well,
typing on the keyboard is horrible. Just launching apps is like 2 seconds of lag somehow. I'm so confused. Like, what is
do you
happening?
remember you were saying about performance shaders before?
Maybe.
I mean, the battery life will probably be down to a bit of that. Uh, but I don't know. I mean, that speaks to perhaps something other than the shaders and the effects that are going on in
Yeah,
some
that's
ways.
what I was thinking. Like, even if the
Yeah.
graphics cores are a bit more used a bit more, like, this more feels like a CPU issue.
Yeah.
Like, also, like, I was in London and wanted to take pictures of things because things were very pretty. And every now and then, you open the camera either through the camera button or like just like by swiping on the screen, and it just like takes multiple seconds for the camera to be available, which was always a problem with iOS. I feel like I'm always wondering, like, why does it take 2 seconds? But now it's like 5 to 7 seconds, which doesn't feel like a lot. But if there's like an interesting airplane flying by, or I don't know, like a cool situation that we really want to capture, and then it's gone, it feels
Yeah.
frustrating.
It is frustrating. I mean, I want to share some of my grievances
Uh
with you,
huh.
but I also don't want to be completely down on all of it because it's not all bad. I think, unfortunately, yeah, my list of negatives have outweighed any pros that I've had. Like, the gloss is nice, yeah. The some of the effects are cool. Some of them are very subtle, like, the little sort of liquidy blob of toggle switches and things like that. And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you don't always catch it because it's literally under your thumb, but then you lift your thumb and your finger up and you sort of get to see the end bloop of it.
Yeah. Also,
Yeah, but
when the animations are fluid, they look very cool. Actually,
yeah,
when new notifications come in, for example, they look very
Yep, and I really don't hate that. I think some of that gloss is like, yeah, okay, we've actually got a bit of whimsy going on in the OS again, and I like that. That's why anybody watching on the YouTube will have seen. Although I got um, the silver phone, I ended up with a very very loud orange case because I like the look of the orange phone being so loud and fun. But
Alarm.
mhm.
It's an orange alarm color,
Yes, it's an orange alert, not a red alert. Um,
Davecon 3.
Stop it. No, what was I going to say though? My list of grievances. So Dave's list
Oh,
of grievances. Strap in. There's a few. Um, Pretty much everything you've mentioned to a large degree. Yeah, the stuff being buried down inside of a menu level effectively. I feel like they've kind of killed the whole purpose of a tab bar and an app. And it's like, the idea of the tab bar way back when was like you would have different modalities of your content and they would be within an easy tap to get to. That's now not the case. They've kind of, everything's comes up into the sort of tab bubble or whatever we're going to call it now, and icons move.
the
And
tubble.
yeah, I'm just like, this feels broken. Like it doesn't feel natural, and even a couple of weeks in, I'm still finding like Apple Music isn't behaving as it used to, and I had a very specific pattern of quite often I'd be after something I've listened to recently or added recently to my library, and I would go to my library and play that new song again, and now I'm like, it's another couple of clicks away, and I seem to keep forgetting where I'm supposed to go. And some of that is just because I've got really ingrained muscle memory, right? But normally, what I find with the muscle memory stuff is that sort of dissipates after a week or so, and I'm there. And that hasn't happened yet. And I don't think it's going to happen for a while. So it's frustrating. Um, so that's probably number one, actually, for me, has been like, yeah, I feel like I'm having to relearn how to navigate Apple Music. And that's annoying. I use it a lot. But and then that applies to almost every other app that's gone in hard with this sort of design. Slack updated the other day, and they've kind of got some similar things going on. And I don't know again, they've probably not changed that much in the way Slack works, but somehow I'm finding again like it keeps tripping me up, and that's annoying. It's like some change isn't bad, but like that constantly feeling like you've got to sort of work against what is going on in front of you is dragging. So I really hope they find a way of sort of dialing it back a little bit, but I'm not sure how. With some of the tab bar stuff, they've gone hard out on really sort of having that, because search now appears at the bottom. There's this whole sort of like, multimodality of what the tab bar does. But yeah, that's been annoying. Now,
I feel like it can be good. I think like there is a vision at the end of this tunnel where
mm,
if we would be able to see the final vision, I assume like based on a magically good Siri plus just like some more polishing, I think it could be kind of good. Everything is like the search bar is suddenly way more important and stuff like that. I think it's just like because Apple is kind of forced to release an OS every year at the same time. This time, like they bit off a bit too much. Like management bit off a bit too much, and the developers couldn't finish chewing it, so it needed a bit longer. So I'm kind of pinning my hope in 26.1.
and I'm seeing some of that actually from a dev perspective at the moment, in that so if you've got your app is working on 26.0, there are then some bits that like, so if your app is compiled on that SDK, there are some bits that are not working at the moment, in terms of if you've got a dark mode app, sometimes you end up with like navbar buttons or the tab bar itself still styled in light mode. And I've seen this with a few apps where then it does that. I go through a couple of the tabs and something resets in the colors in the navigation layer or whatever. and it goes back to how it should be. And then I go back to the first tab or whatever, and right, okay, it's now light mode again, but everything else is dark mode, like the tab bar's light or the nav bar's light. That is incredibly frustrating. And I had a bit of this with my own app, GoVJ, and we can talk to where this has led me maybe in a little bit. But I compiled against the latest Xcode and the SDK, ran everything. And this is my own fault, perhaps, for not testing with the betas this year. But I discovered again, like my navbar buttons were showing lights when they shouldn't do. They were, this is the style now, they were by default inset inside of a circle, which broke a fair bit of my UI. Because I don't want it to look like that. My little X is now looking tiny, and I'd already styled this right. And Apple, can you just leave my design the heck alone? Those have been some of my initial frustrations with all of this. It's like, well, the other one was that I was using a bottom bar to hold some buttons, not a tab bar, but holding buttons at the bottom of my UI. And something broke in there. My buttons weren't always tappable. But this worked before. I've not done anything awful here, but now for whatever reason, this is not working on the latest OS. So I've had to do a couple of things to fix that, make the targets of the buttons bigger and stuff. So it feels like this is still a work in progress, and I'm a little bit surprised that some of this has gone out the door in the states it's in some ways. I know it's a 0.0 release, but it's also a release for the flagship new phones and everything else. And from a dev perspective, it's frustrating because I know some of these things are broken, and then when you compile against the latest beta, they're not. And it's like, well, all right, but I want my software to just work as it's intended, as I've intended. I don't want to be fighting against which version of the SDK am I on or which version of the OS are people on beyond reason, right?
Yeah. Of course. And as always, of course, like we're not complaining, like we're not criticizing the wonderful developers who program these
No,
things, but more like
no,
project management and like the higher ups, like who actually have
absolutely.
the power to
Whenever
whatever they
anything
have the power to change this.
100%. Whenever anything goes out the door and there's these sort of edges, like it's very rarely down to just the developers that's gone out like that. I mean, obviously, sometimes we make mistakes as developers, right? But what I often see, though, is that that's something that has then gone out and has been through a level of QA, a level of, product owners checking through and testing it as well, through to, like you say, there's then other pressures to go, we need to ship it. This needs to go. And putting people under time pressure as well. When you crunch a team, you're going to get things fall off. So no, any gripes, grievances, whatever I've got, they're definitely not directed at the developers. It's more like Apple in general. So I don't know. It's easy to complain, and I'm sure that like there's going to be some bits of this where in a year's time it's going to be like, oh, I'm glad they did that because this now makes sense, or I've got used to that and this is kind of cool. So I'm trying to stay open-minded, but my dev frustration is mounting, Daniel, for my own app, if I'm honest. So
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
yeah,
It seems like a systemic issue at this point.
yeah.
Well, so yeah, the cool features that I told about, that I really liked, I still like them. I love the new way the lock screen looks like with the huge clock, and the way that it resizes to like just slightly hide a tiny bit underneath the subject of the pictures, which is lovely. And I love the crossfading autoplay feature in Apple Music. So
Yeah, I love that. I
I think
really love
those are
that.
still my two favorite features.
Yeah. No, every time I catch the autoplay, like automatic mixing that's in there and it gets it right, it's just like that whole sort of like, the DJ's got the drop kind of moment.
And then very rarely, like today when I was working, and like some, like two songs that really, really, really didn't fit together, like I had it on shuffle. And it was just like so hilarious. Like it's
Yeah.
like it would have been jarring even if like the songs would just like play next to each other. But the way they were already
Yes.
mixed into each other, like I forgot which songs they were, but it was just hilarious.
And you know, I'm never with that. I'm never like, oh, you should work better. I'm like, no, that's funny. Like, I quite like those moments when it does that. No, it's something else to shout out. There's been a few tweaks to the default camera app, and I definitely have gotten used to those very quickly. Like, they've been sort of small, relatively small tweaks, I think, compared to other things. But I really enjoy just using the default camera app, and that's cool. Like, you know, I've got it wired up to the button, and it's there, and it's something I use a lot. And yeah, that's been nice. So I'm glad they didn't change that in a way that causes me friction, I think is the vibe there. And then all the additional bits are kind of like, oh, it does that now. Okay. And
Nice.
obviously with my new phone,
Ooh, someone has a new phone.
I've got the dual mode or whatever it is they're calling it, where you can record the front camera and back camera into the same video. And that's kind of fun. Yeah, I kind of intend to use that for some of the Instagram stuff that I post. I mean, you could do that on the older phones as well with different applications, but this, I gather, is special to the new phones in that it's optimized to really pull the two streams together so you don't completely thrash the battery. So that's kind of cool, because when I've used those sort of applications in the past, the phone turns into a mini heater in your hand after a little while.
Yeah. Oh, so you need a phone with the vapor chamber.
Probably.
Nice. Awesome.
No. Oh,
I touched a iPhone Air as well at the conference.
yes.
Like somebody I was talking to, was it Dave Weather? No, but oh yeah, Dave Weather. Shout out to Dave. I also met him. It was really nice meeting him. But like someone, I was like, they were pulling out their Air. And I was like, excuse me, this is dumb, but can I touch your phone? And I touched it. It was nice.
You held it,
Right.
right? You didn't just put a finger on it and go, ooh, I've
No.
touched
I
it.
held it in my hand. It felt really good. You were when we were like griping about user interface. You were saying something earlier about like, oh yeah, this might lead into a thing that you want to tell me. Would you gripe
Okay,
some more
so
about user interfaces,
I'm not
or
going to, well,
maybe you don't want to gripe?
it's not a full gripe. It's a Dave going on another Homer Simpson style mad experimental journey of something, right? You know, like, I've got a crazy idea, and damn it, Marge, I'm
Yeah, it's
just
like
going to do
every
it.
4 to 6 weeks, like you go on a like you just are like, I should do this and change everything about how I do that. Okay,
Yep.
so what is it?
Yep.
Where are we
All
going this
right.
time?
And by the time the next show comes out, I'll have found out and something will be a bit different again. So maybe this will be a bit jarring for listeners because it's Dave's random journeys. But okay. So after my frustration with Apple's stuff kind of changing the UI of my app, I hit a couple of other points and I was like, do you know what? I'm so annoyed at having to fight Apple a little bit to keep the UI of the app the way that I want it to be. And I think in my case, it's slightly different to some other apps, right? If you've got an app that goes hard out on Apple's default styling, you know, you've ran things on what they're prescribing and everything is HIG friendly and all of that, then updating to the latest makes sense because it's going to look and feel at home, and that's great. But with the app I've got an interface for launching videos for using to mix in real time, and it's like using a DJ mixer or a software. If you've ever used VSTs with audio software, virtual instruments, it's a dashboard, right? It's a dashboard with some controls and dials and lets you do things in real time with all of that. So at that point, and the way I've got it styled is it's typically a dark background, unless you're on one of the few light themes I've put in the app. It's typically a dark background with a light accent that's designed for using, you know, in dark environments like nightclubs and stages and things that are often dark where you are back there.
In dark rooms.
Yeah, dark rooms with things that go bleep and lights and projections everywhere. Now, So to that end, my users don't want anything to get in the way. I don't want anything to get in the way of them. And so I feel like I've got this kind of relationship with Apple's APIs in general, where I'm having to sort of go, no, I want it this style. I'm going to override this. Don't do that. It's got to look like this specifically. And I kind of made my peace with that. And it's not been so bad with Swift UI in general when I did the big Swift UI update ages ago. But with this one, it sort of felt a bit like, oh God, okay, I've got to guard myself against this. Anyway, I went back to feeling like, oh, I wish I could just use something that's cross-platform that just does what it's supposed to do and gets out of my way, right? That is just, that's my UI and that's it. But if you remember earlier in the year when I kind of explored this and I started trying to use things like Qt, I started using Kotlin multi-platform and Compose multi-platform. None of those things sparked joy, Daniel. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately. And Kotlin's okay, but yeah, I just didn't really get there with Compose. It's fine, but just, and some of the same story again, right? Because everything gets themed through its themes. And the one thing that scared me off was that it was looking like if I went down that real hard out cross-platform route, I would have to use C++ all the time. And I don't like C++. I've been coding in Swift now for far too long to sort of feel like I'm going backwards. And C++ isn't backwards, right? It's very good at what it does. But I love all of the stuff that Swift gives to us as developers. Type safety, I like the concurrency stuff that Apple has brought in. I'm finding that it's very much suiting the way my brain thinks. So the crazy idea that I landed on, and some of this was after seeing what you were up to at server-side Swift as well, because I was like, hang on a second, yeah, you can run Swift on Linux and all these other things. I think what I've landed on is, can I keep the brain of my app in Swift, so I'm in my happy place with most of the code, but can I wrap and call into some of these cross-platform GUI libraries to create a UI, to use it as a canvas for my control interface, as it were? So I depart from using Swift UI for everything, and I box it off so that, yeah, okay, the main bit of my app and the bit that I want to keep locked in is against something else, and I have a lot more control over it. So that's the journey I may be on. I'm at the very beginning bit of, okay, if I'm going to do that, I need to wrap some of these libraries and make bridging layers and call them from Swift. And then obviously they work in their own ways, so I'm going to have to do some stuff to figure out with that. But if I can get a test UI working, if I can find a way of working with the stuff that sort of doesn't feel bad, then this could be a route.
So questions about basically where this voyage is going. What's
Mm-hmm.
your vision for the end goal? So now you've reached all the things. So now you have the core written in Swift with the visualizations and everything, and then you have a cross-platform UI that probably looks very dark mode-y, and then it runs on Linux and Android and iOS. Is that how that looks like?
Yeah, eventually. The initial look would be iOS, with me starting to then be able to test it on Linux and start bringing other things in, because I certainly don't want to port everything immediately into cross-platform technologies. So the initial starting point is, can I get anything UI-wise that I'm happy with through this route? So
And have your previous excursions into the land of cross-platform? Because like my big question was always like, can your shader code even run cross-platform? So I assume
yes.
that is something that you've already double checked.
Well, yes. So there'll be a couple of parts to this. So one is the UI layer that will be using insert technology here. I've got a couple that I'm testing out at the moment. I'm going to talk about them if I have success. It's not really worth going into the weeds there. But they will sit on top of a rendering backend that will talk to the GPU. And the initial insertion for this, if you like, is to give it a view from UIKit or Swift UI that vends it an accelerated layer, like a metal layer. And that will be given to a backend that the new UI system talks to and displays stuff through. And there are a few backends that I could choose. The one I'm exploring at the moment is called BGFX, and it apparently it compiles down to, well, it ends up running the shaders on Metal when you're on iOS or macOS. Yep. Which is good. And on Linux, you've then got OpenGL or Vulkan, the same for Windows, copy paste for Android. It handles that. And then the shader language it uses is you can run shaders in GLSL. And the shaders I've got, Daniel, are in Metal, so I'd need to port them. But they're not that involved, really.
Yeah.
Like porting, that's a ChatGPT request and a little bit of tweaking. They're not hundreds of lines of shader code. So yeah, that doesn't feel too bad. Like if I have to bring everything over to that.
All right.
But it's the start. I'm going to spend probably a couple of weeks on this and see if I can get to a hello world with some widgets on the screen and see if it feels worth it. Because the long range of this is get it working on iOS, and then I've got a layer that I can start hacking out the other guts of decoding frames from video, etc., on Android, on Linux, and then if it all comes off, I've not had to leave my Swift bubble too far to achieve it.
Okay, follow-up questions.
Mm-hmm.
On the one hand, since you're basically like a big GPU accelerated view with some UI on top, have you considered using a game engine such as Unity or GameMaker?
I have. They come with other edges that I'm not happy with. I would leave my Swift bubble for a start, and I would end up having to code in whatever language they use internally in the game engine, and I will probably dislike that. I'm very heavily wedded to Swift, it turns out. So that's one edge. The other edge is that they also change things, and you need to keep up on that stack and that side of the technology, and I will hit the same frustrations in time. Like I'll be playing, it's learn a new language, learn a new environment, keep up with that new environment. What I'm looking for with things like the C++ GUI libraries that I'm looking at is stuff that is ancient, that doesn't change, that is just like, this is how it works, right? And has a really robust history going back at least sort of 10 years or so, that I can just be like, set it and forget it. I've got my wrappers around it. My app is styling and calling through it. It's done. Yeah.
And the other question, if you are already rewriting so much yourself, like why not build your own UI layer in Swift? Then you have the complete control of how things look and feel, and you can write everything in Swift. You might even like use Swift UI just with only custom views or something like that.
Yeah, because then I don't get the nice added effect of the cross-platform window being open.
Oh, okay. So you need a cross, like you need one of those libraries also to just have.
Yeah, because if everything's really just customized Swift UI, then I'm still only in iOS and macOS land.
All right,
And
okay,
that's
then
large.
forget Swift UI. Like if you like, have you considered drawing your own UI? Like you're drawing
But then at
things on
that,
screen anyway.
yeah, but I want to use a library to handle the drawing for me, and then work with that really. Because at that point as well, I'd be talking to either raw metal or trying to talk to one of these backends anyway. And if there's already things that do that I can just call into, then I should save myself that work really. The hope is that I can use the bridging layer through Swift and then essentially have my own widgets defined in Swift that I'm calling for the UI.
And I assume that for like store kit stuff, you just like use the native stuff anyway, because like you could have.
Yeah, I'll have some sort of callback mechanism or something that pings out and then triggers stuff from the host UI kit base or Swift UI base at the top. Yeah.
Right. Interesting.
And the same for if it was Or if it was Android or anything else, you'd have to call up a layer and trigger it, right? So, yeah.
So I am supportive, but at the same time, I'm not 100% sure what's the difference between this and the last time you tried out the cross-platform library. So I'm just like looking on and seeing.
Yeah, we will see. We will see. The big question here is how much Swift can how much C++ can I avoid having to write? Can I achieve most of this through a simple bridging layer and keep everything arm's length and then write my app in Swift? As soon as it descends into having to manage some sort of like bridging C library, C++ library that ends up holding state or complexity, then I'm out of here. I'm straight back into iOS only land.
I
Yeah.
mean, like from what I learned at the conference, like Swift has like so much interoperability with C these days. Should be
Yes.
possible to marry the two somehow.
Yeah. That bit's looking pretty promising. I think the biggest question I've got right now is can I theme something in such a way that it actually looks like it's still an app rather than just looking like some sort of desktop thing wedged into an iPhone sized window. Um,
That is kind of charming in its own right.
it is, but it's not what I want. So no,
Make it looks like next step or something.
yeah. But I must say, Daniel, actually, there is sort of prior art out there in other applications. So I look at music apps like Koala. There's a music app called Loopy Pro, and both of those are still using OpenGL, and they're using their own UI systems that they have built on top of that. And what that gives them is that I mean, certainly for Koala is Android as well, and it gives them that flexibility. So there is something there, and in terms of like that's how a lot of these apps, at least for music, sort of tend to work. So I won't have to go too far before I will know if it's going to be worth it for me or not. And if it's not worth it, I will back out. I will go down a heavily customized Swift UI route and just get on with life. So we'll find out in a
I
couple of
mean, you
weeks.
say get on with life, but like this is not about like the most efficient road towards a financially profitable application or anything. This is you having fun trying all these things and
At
finding
the
a way
moment,
that
yeah.
works for you, right? I mean,
At the
and that is
moment,
okay.
yeah.
That is absolutely okay.
Yes. But the dream is to eventually be able to support more than just iOS and kind of expand in that way with what I do for a variety of reasons, not least of which there's people that want to use my app that don't have iPhones or iPads. So, and I want to be able to be there for them in that sense as well. But there's other things, like I had the idea of doing a pro version of the app a couple of years ago. If I go back to doing that, which I would like to do, I've got a bit of a rebuild to do anyway. So
Mhm.
now is the time where I'm like, okay, if I can figure out this, then I end up kind of creating my palette of UI that I can then apply to that project as well. And if I don't do this, then I'll be doing much the same thing anyway. So there's like, I'm looking at that and like, I've got some of this effort coming up if I want to go there. So this is a bit of a side step to say, is it the all in on Apple Play to make that work? Or is it this sideways thing? And then that makes that work. And then it gives me these other potentials after the fact. Because I'm certainly not going to then go, right, okay, now I'm going to go hard out on bringing it to Linux before I've even shipped my pro version of my app on iPad. That's not the right way around, but it's more like that's up and running. I now know these other doors could be opened. I've then got some other side quests to go on later on. So yeah, I know what you're doing, and I know you're looking on with a level of curiosity, amusement, and skepticism.
Well, not skepticism, or maybe skepticism, but like I'm coming to realize that you're just like having a lot of fun, like figuring these things out.
Yes.
And I like it, but at the same
Hmm.
time, I'm feeling like maybe deep down in your heart, like reaching that end goal with the pro version that has all these features is not your most like your number one priority, but more like having fun along the way.
Having fun along the way is a big part of it, but also then feeling like I've got the level of that was fun and now it's a problem solved, not that was fun and now I've got to keep an eye on it for the next however long all the time, just in case Apple changes that one little thing that shoves my UI out, which is how it's feeling at the moment. I want to have fun, solve problems, keep moving.
Nice. Right. Oh yeah, I have like a 10-second nerd snipe for you. Hang on, I'm gonna post this into.
Well, no, I don't need any more nerd snipes. I'm nerd sniping myself.
Paste this into the show notes. Have you heard of Strudel / what's it called? Tidal cycles?
No.
Because I saw this the other day, and I immediately thought of you. It is a language which you can use to live code music, like specifically like
That's
electronic
fun.
music. And
Yes.
so yeah, like I sent you a link, and this opens immediately like a 4 to the floor beat that has like
Yeah.
What is it called? A 909 by
Yeah. I see it.
like a 909 synthesizer by Korg. Is it Korg? I don't know. And just like going 4 on the floor, bam, 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 bam. And so I think that's really cool. I am not musical enough for this.
Yeah, that's fun.
But because you are kind of adjacent to that scene,
Mm-hmm.
I thought like I should probably show you this.
Yeah, that's great. I'll
This
have
is
a play with that
like
later.
just a coding window in a browser, and you can just like code and then play the music that the code generates immediately, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I'll link that up for people. That is going to be a massive distraction. So thank you.
Here's another thing.
Anyway, this has definitely been the Dave Nerd Snipes himself show, I think, for the last 15 minutes.
Strudel, by the way, is the German word for vortex, and I think that's the logo of this website. But it also is
I did not know that.
Sweet bakery item.
I knew that. Yeah.
That is
that's what I thought it was for. It will make sense.
Like
cool.
A spiral.
Apple strudel.
Yeah, because it's rolled up.
Yeah. Well, dude, I'm not going to go on any more about my rabbit holes and nerd sniping of myself because I need to get the rest of my day started.
But I hope next time you will go on though.
It'll either be it's all gone horribly wrong. I regret everything. I'm back to customizing SwiftUI and just dealing with the edges, or it'll be I'm currently customizing this weird stack and dealing with those edges. So we'll find out.
Right. Like when we meet again, like you like I hope with you on the other side and you have like a working solution, and I'm having really fun. Yeah, before I read the outro, just a bit of housekeeping. Like I am going to be spending the next weeks, plural, in fact, riding a bike up and down mountains on an island in the Mediterranean.
Dang.
So don't blame us if we are a bit less regular on the recording, but I will
be right.
My microphone. So let's see what we can do.
It'd be quite fun if I can record with you on the side of a mountain somewhere. That would be
like some Spanish music in the background. It's going to be a workation.
Great
All right,
stuff.
Everyone. Thank you so much for listening. Please rate us on iTunes and YouTube. Send us emails at contact@waitingforreview.com and join our Discord. Link is in the show notes. And yes, it includes 100% more Daniel these days. Dave, where can people find you on the internet?
Probably best off taking a look at my Instagram. The account there is Lightbeam Apps. How about yourself, Daniel?
Yeah, I'm on Mastodon, Daniel at social.telemetrydeck.com. Find me there for pictures of me in a hoodie looking hacker-like that I just posted while waiting for you in the room.
Brilliant. Maybe I'll have to. I've got my hoodie, and this room's been a bit dark today, so maybe I can take another shot.
Do it. We're going to put them next to each other. We're going to be like super ultra cool hackers.
Nice. I shall have to go, but take care, Daniel, and I will speak to you probably not necessarily soon, but as soon as we can.
Soonish.
Yes.
All right. It's been a blast. Bye.
Take care.